Okay, so this is just to let you guys know the May horoscope is going to be in two parts. Two parts. So this video, I want to talk about some major activities going on this month, just an overarching theme, and then in the next video we'll get into more of the typical horoscope stuff. Um, and also, this video is going to have a very specific personal message from me. So, first things first, this month is not going to be comfortable. I'm not even going to lie. It's not going to be comfortable. And I know you don't want to hear this, right? Nobody wants to hear. We've got enough uncomfortable going on. We don't need more of it. If you have not watched the January to June 2020 year ahead report, I put the link in the description box. Go back and look for it. And you can read what we saw for May and June in there to give you some sense of what we're dealing with, and also some additional information that's not going to be here because I'm trying to do this on the fly. This month we have Venus stationing retrograde, we have Mars entering Pisces, Jupiter stationing retrograde, and Saturn stationing retrograde. Now, first things first, this month, the priority and absolute thing that you must focus on more than anything else is your mental health. Mental health is an absolute priority right now. The second is perspective. Perspective is very, very important. If you are watching this video with me, it means that you are in a home or of some kind, a residence of some kind that allows you electricity and internet access, and you have a computer. This means that you're also not living in a landfill under a makeshift tent picking garbage with your children just to survive. You are not living in a city that's getting bombed randomly and unexpectedly because, you know, it's Wednesday at 3 p.m. And dealing with that. It also means that you're not living in a place where you have to worry about your baby girls being abducted from school, and literally married off to grown men who probably haven't bathed in a freaking month, angry old men, or having their genitals mutilated because they're girls, right? So we don't have these issues. The reason I point this out is not because this is a competition between who's the bigger victim, right? Because what we're going through right now is terrifying, and it is absolutely distressing, and it's absolutely taking a toll on all of us, physically as well as mentally and economically. Like this, there's no making this a better, worse comparison. However, this is why I bring this up. If people in far more dire situations than we are still in situations of comfort. If you're watching this video, you've got to own that. If people in far more dire circumstances can find a way to survive and keep their mental health intact, right? And to not completely become despairing and suicidal, right? Or homicidal, right? Going out shooting people. If they can do that and they can find ways to draw together and lean on each other and get through their lives as best they can under the circumstances that they're dealing with, we can get through this too. But it all starts with mental health, and it all starts with understanding and owning the circumstances that you're in, right? And how we got here. So there's that. So Venus station in retrograde in Gemini will make things, boy, if you thought people were cranky before, oh my God. Just a couple of notable things with Venus stationing retrograde in Gemini. And it will station retrograde on the 13th, so you can really expect to feel the power punch from this like at least 6 days before, right? So starting very beginning of the month, we're going to start this. Now, Venus station in retrograde is going to make people more hyper irritable, more likely to take things out of context, more likely to deliver information out of context deliberately, and far more likely to involve themselves in malicious, nasty gossip, as well as deliberately trying to stir the pot to get other people in trouble. So Geminis, as a rule, tend to be mischievous in those ways to begin with, right? I mean, listen, Geminis know this about themselves, and people who've ever been around Geminis know this about them too. So we're not going to get into the whole Geminis are awful thing, but I'm just saying. So if you could take the worst sides of Gemini and the worst expressions of Gemini and roll them all up and concentrate them about 10 times, everybody is going to be part and parcel participating in this month if they're not careful. So understand that. So make sure your stuff is pristine. Watch what you say as little as possible. Do not get involved in gossip, and understand that deliberate misinformation on every level is absolutely going to be at an all-time high this month. because people are unhappy and unhappier this month with Venus retrograde and Saturn retrograde and Jupiter retrograde and Mars and Pisces. And people who are unhappy and feeling sorry for themselves want other people to be as or more miserable than they are. So they will literally look for someone to generously give their unhappiness to. So be aware. Be aware, especially if you're one of those people who doesn't typically involve yourself in stuff like that. Examine yourself and ask yourself, am I an easy target for a social group or any type of group, work, social, family, whatever? Am I an easy target for other people to scapegoat? If that is the case, make sure you protect yourself, right? And understand this is a very distinct possibility. So make sure your stuff is pristine and you got your behind covered. It's not going to be a fun month. Mars goes into Pisces at the same time. Mars in Pisces, while very fun on a personal level, on a more general, large scale group level, it's just prone to a lot of self pity. So everybody's going to be feeling really sorry for themselves this month. Oh my God, just, ugh. Which also means that domestic abuse and gaslighting, oh, I want to talk about that in a second too, will absolutely be rolling along like a runaway freight train. So if you have people that you care about or you love, be aware that this may be going on for them in their homes. And remember, silence is better than saying the wrong thing, and people are really likely to take things the wrong way this month. So if you're not completely sure what you're talking about, meaning you have no experience, if you don't have experience in something, you don't get to have an opinion. Silence, accepting silence and supportive silence is often going to be the better choice. Okay. Jupiter will station retrograde and Saturn will station retrograde. Now, both of these are going retrograde in Saturnine signs, Capricorn and Aquarius. Jupiter retrograde in Capricorn is a very DIY kind of energy. So it's very much about getting in, rolling up your shirt sleeves, right? And doing the work, doing the damn work. Sorry. So with Jupiter retrograde, stationing retrograde in Capricorn, it's actually very lucky because it's giving us an opportunity to go back and redo things, right? And to catch up on stuff and to work on skills that we may have neglected or thought about and never really got around to while Saturn was in Capricorn. Jupiter retrograde in Capricorn is going to give us a second chance because Jupiter retrograde in Capricorn is very much about making your own luck. This also means, unfortunately, that in terms of leadership, right, the fathers of the tribe, the mothers of the tribe, the parent in charge of the group, as it were, will be more stingy than usual. So expect anything in terms of promises coming from higher ups to be yanked back, and with lots of justification because Venus is retrograde in Gemini. So all of this is to say that this month in particular, especially Jupiter is retrograde, remember the golden rule: if you aren't doing it yourself, do not count on other people to get it done or get it done correctly. So make your plans and adjust accordingly. Saturn will be retrograde also in Aquarius. Saturn in Aquarius. So Saturn in Aquarius is about honesty and science. And we're seeing it. Ever since Saturn went into Aquarius, honesty, like truth revealing, bare naked in your face. This is really what's going on. And science have been hot spots or big spotlighted things that we're dealing with. So in the United States, some people would say, with the administration that they're just being shameless about it. Well, maybe. And maybe the fact is that they've always been shameless about it. It's just that right now, with Saturn moving into Aquarius, all those veils have officially, the last of it has officially been ripped away. And this is really what it is and always has been, because Aquarius is an honest sign. Aquarius could care less about gossip and drama and, performative truth. And storytelling, like Aquarius is all about the future, and let's get on with it. Let's go. They don't have the time or mental energy to catalog deception, and soap operas and stuff like that. So typically with very Uranian energy, Uranian people, Uranian experiences, that's why it's always so shocking, because we're always so shocked that somebody would speak the truth. Oh my God, the emperor is naked. So with Saturn going in Aquarius, we're seeing a lot of that. Saturn is about owning your stuff, right? And Saturn in Aquarius is about owning your stuff, especially when it comes to the bare naked truth. And in the United States, we're absolutely seeing owning your truth and the bare naked truth, of what's been going on, especially with our government, right? So And it's not the government as much as the ruling classes, right? The elites that make the rules. So we're really, anybody who's been in, this is the thing that's fascinating. Anybody who has been in denial about this, there's no lying yourself now, unless you're literally blatantly lying yourself in a way that everybody can see, even you, because Aquarius, it's about the truth. Saturn's about owning your stuff. So this month, with Jupiter and Saturn both retrograde, we are going to see a fracas kind of division between pro-science and anti-science. We've already seen it building. Remember, astrology doesn't compel, it reflects. So it's a mirror, as above, so below, right? So, but this month, it's literally going to be a hard split. And I don't know that it's going to be a majority thing. I don't think it's going to be equal. I think it's going to be a great majority and a very small minority that absolutely is determined to go backward in time. And I don't even know. I'm pro science, so I don't understand how these people think. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Anyway, there's a lot of fear this month, and a lot of unhappiness, and a lot of self pity, and a lot of wanting to be an ostrich, right? Sticking your head in the sand until it all goes away. And I would just like to remind you folks who don't like to watch the news and don't want to pay attention, like literally limit, the stream of information you get to very, very small, self-feeding circles, like conspiracy theorists. Being an ostrich does not work well for ostriches. I mean, they will literally stick their head in the sand to hide, as best as an ostrich is going to hide, from threats to their life out in the plains. But, the end result for the ostrich is no, it's not really an effective way of dealing with your problems or threats. But sure, I mean, if you need to be an ostrich, be an ostrich. So this is what we're going to get. We're going to get the ostriches, and we're going to get everybody else kind of, grudgingly getting on board with it. Oh my God, like this is really, really what's going on. Oh my gosh. It's just what it got to be. Okay. So mental health is an absolute priority this month. DIY, do it yourself, is absolutely the key phrase for everything. Keep your mouth shut and stay out of drama circles. If you know or you suspect that you might be an easy target in any group that could be scapegoated just because somebody's bored or somebody's got an axe to grind or somebody needs someone else to pin things on, know that about yourself, own it, and plan and prepare, because the pot stirrers and the troublemakers and the people who are always throwing other people under the bus are going to be out in freaking force. Document, and cover your ass. So there's that. This month is really going to test our grit and determination, and our common sense, and our sanity, as it were. And I'm going to leave this here. So I'm not trying to depress you guys. I just want to kind of give you an overview for the month, because we've got a critical month ahead. And this is not the worst of them. We've got a whole year left to get through. So don't panic. And here's the thing that I would remind you of, right? So, because everything's about perspective, especially right now. Remember, if you're watching this video, you have the comfort of a home with electricity and internet and a computer, right? Because if you didn't have a computer, you probably wouldn't need the internet. This means that what you are not is you are not living in a landfill with your children, picking garbage and sleeping under makeshift tents to survive. You are not living in a city where just walking across the street to talk to your neighbor or going to the grocery store is a potential death sentence, because bombs dropping randomly and unexpectedly without warning in God knows where places for no apparent reason other than pure spite or hatred. You're not living in a place where your baby girls are going to get literally potentially ripped out of schools, right? And married off to angry old men, or have their genitals mutilated because they're girls. There's a whole lot we don't have to deal with here. And because of that, it's important to understand that no matter how distressing or awful and threatening things are, and they are, make no mistake about it, they are, this does not mean that we are done, right? This whole indulgent thing that, oh, my life is over. It's not. It's not. If people can survive in circumstances like that, we can survive this. And This is not a competition about who's the bigger victim here. This is, who's got the most misfortune and who's suffering the most. This is not a competition. This is, I want you to think about this. If people in those circumstances are able to live their lives as best they can, right, and keep their mental health together as best they can under their circumstances, which are far more dire than what we're dealing with right now, we can too. It's all about perspective and keeping your head together and understanding what your priorities are, right? So if you can't change it, if you can't fix it, if this thing is larger than yourself, and you know that you got a big old wave of trouble coming up ahead, but it's not here yet, don't focus on that. Focus on what you can do right now to make some measure of improvement in your life somewhere, somehow. Even if the only thing you're doing is planting a garden in a pot on your back porch. Focus on what you can do. DIY this month. DIY. If you're not doing it for yourself, don't count on other people to get it done for you or to get it done correctly. So do what you can for yourself right now. And remember, if other people in far more dire circumstances can find a way to be resilient and ingenious and keep their mental health intact and find some semblance of quality of life in situations that don't provide any quality of life or even stability or safety in life, like there's no reason you can't dig deep and find it within yourself to find a way to make this work too. We have to navigate. It's like sailing on a boat in a storm. Like you've just got to get through it. So that's that. The part 2 of this will be a separate video. We're going to do the actual May horoscopes in more depth. I just want to get this out there. And here is my specific message and the reason I'm doing this particular video separate. Here in the United States, we have an imbecile in charge. I don't know if the rest of the world's noticed, but we have an imbecile in charge. And it's not enough that we have an imbecile in charge. No. We have an entire administration of greedy cowards. This entire elite ruling class in the United States literally has been exposed for the perception and perspective that they have, which is that the working class is nothing more than slaves for them, like for their financial bottom line. So we are assumed to take all of the risks to health and life for their ultimate comfort and livelihood. Okay? Because they don't have to do it. They can live in their multi-million-dollar houses. They can have their servants, or I'm sorry, employees, go deal with the threats out there, from the comfort of their homes while they're separated from it. They have all of those things that soften the blow between where they're at and the realities outside their door. We do not. And the fact of the matter is, here in this country, we've got people who are literally trying to send us back out, knowing that science is telling them that this is wrong, okay, because they're worried about their profit margins, okay, because what's being exposed is the fact that in their minds, we're literally nothing better than slaves. We're poor people. And there's poor people everywhere. There's plenty more where they came from. We can replace them. So we lose a few. Yeah. So we've got that going on, right? And Saturn in Aquarius is very much about science. We're going to do a whole video about Saturn and Aquarius. But Aquarius is about science and progress in the future. And Saturn is about owning your shit. Owning your stuff. So it's very difficult to be in the United States right now. It's very difficult to be in the United States right now because we have a president who's encouraging people to drink bleach. Or, I'm sorry, no, inject bleach, because, you can disinfect your lungs that way. Oh my God. And there are still people in this country that think that's great advice. Yeah. Anyway, so there's that. Now, as a metaphysical community, separate from those people, as a metaphysical community, some things that I've heard floating around the internet that are driving me nuts. And here's the thing, like if you are a fan of conspiracy theories, you're probably not watching my channel because, we don't do that here. We don't do the wackadoodle conspiracies here because nobody's got time for that. Ain't got time for that, Willis. But I have heard mention of all sorts of theories about why this is happening, which doesn't matter. It's here. We're focused on solutions, not, finger pointing, blaming people, right? The other is I actually heard, oh dear God, people discussing metaphysical remedies to prevent getting the virus. Okay. If you don't want to take a vaccine, don't take a vaccine. Okay. If you want to drink bleach, you drink bleach. If you want to inject Lysol in your veins, you inject Lysol in your veins. If you want to like make the, holy symbol of the flying goat on your forehead and bathe yourself in sage and holy basil, and chant under a full moon, with pink candles, honey, you do your thing. You do your thing. But I am here to tell you, and I'm not the smartest person in the room, and I shouldn't feel like I am. And sometimes when I listen to this stuff, I really do feel like I'm the smartest person in the room, and that's pretty scary, because I'm not. I'm not. Uh, Under no circumstances is it acceptable for anybody to encourage you to do some type of hoodoo, voodoo, kitchen witch magic to fend off the virus. Because the fact of the matter is, listen, astrology and metaphysics and witchcraft and all the sort of stuff was around during the Spanish flu. And it clearly didn't work then. And I'm sure they were touting the same remedies then. And we don't hear about it now because it didn't work. And it won't work this time. So if you, I'm sure you're not, but if you love people who are listening to these crackpots, these irresponsible, unethical horses behinds who purport to be astrologers and metaphysicians and all stuff, who are literally giving bad medical advice or bad scientific advice because there's no medicine and there's no science involved. It's all hoodoo, voodoo, witchery, right? Or biases. No, just no. Just cut that stuff off right there. And if they refuse to listen to reason, you have to understand that this month in particular, you're going to have to make a hard decision between protecting yourself or trying to convince somebody who's not going to be convinced. Okay. And listen, if this is what people insist on doing and they want to make themselves sacrificial lambs for the great, God of profit, darling, you go right ahead, but you're not dragging the rest of us into that mass grave with you. Okay, so if you don't have a medical background and you don't have a science background, and having a brother-in-law who's a plastic surgeon, so I know something about medicine, actual conversation. If you don't have these backgrounds, you're not in a position to make advisement about how people should protect themselves against this virus, other than the established scientific methods that we know about. You are also not in a position to poo-poo the medical or science communities, and their advisements, because, I know a thing or two, because, whatever. Because you don't, and it's irresponsible. And I'm just, it's just every day, it's just how much I can't, wow, just wow. I can't even. At this point, literally, it's no longer a race to the bottom. It's going to become a contest to see who's left at the end. This is literally what this is turning into. It's a Darwin Award competition. Who's going to be left at the end of this race? So I'm not going to name any names, but I will tell you that I'm very disheartened. We struggle to be taken seriously as astrologers, and there's a lot of astrologers, who insist that we should get more respect and be taken seriously, and we should have an acceptable accredited college for this, and people should hire us. And no, nobody's ever going to take us seriously, and no one's ever going to hire us, and no one's ever going to none of this, because you can't control yourselves. Right? So when we have practitioners who purport to be professionals that are doing exactly the things you shouldn't be doing as a professional that affect public health, right? Like, ooh, if you take this herb and make the sign of the holy goat on your forehead under a full moon, and make a talisman under this day at this hour, then you won't get the virus. Things like that. Or conspiracy theories, because, eating bats. Where are these conspiracy theories? Like, is it possible that maybe, now that we know that aliens do exist, that maybe one of these aliens who came down and probed a human infected them with some space virus, right? Where are the conspiracy theorists now? Or the anti-vaxxers or whatever. Like, listen, if you don't want to take a vaccine, don't take a vaccine, right? But if you don't know medicine or science enough to talk reasonably about this, or cite your sources, real ones, you can't have this conversation and discourage other people from taking vaccines. You can't, right? And my best example is this. for the anti-vaxxers, especially with the kids, that they're like the vaccines cause autism. Here's what you would know if you actually knew a little bit about medicine or science and actually did the research in the medical journals, and the reports, the statistics, right, the studies. You would know that the most recent research has concluded that one of the things they're seeing is a correlation between vaccines given during infancy and autism and a disruption of the gut bioflora. So, one of the things they're figuring out is that vaccines affect and disrupt gut bioflora in infants because they have a developing digestive system. Everything on them is still building itself, right? We also know before this that the bioflora in your gut has a direct and absolutely clear impact and correlation with your brain function, brain development, and mental health. Your gut bacteria has everything to do with how depressed you are. Surprise. We know this. So we also know now that there's a very distinct possibility that it's not the vaccine that's the problem, it's the disruption of the gut flora in the infant that later causes some change in brain development, which leads to the development of autism. So it's not the vaccine, it's the gut bioflora. You can disrupt the gut bioflora in an infant with a lot of things, not just vaccines. So the good news is that we can, now that we know where the problem actually is, and it's not the vaccines, the gut bioflora, we can address that. But here's the thing for these housewives, oh, sorry, hair's all kinds of crazy. I'm so gray now, right? For all these housewives, right, and these actresses who know absolutely jack zero about science and medicine, jack zero, and like their best sources are Facebook and Wikipedia and WebMD, or like the mom who is apparently taking advice from a photographer who came up with some theory that if you fed your autistic kids bleach, that you could cure them of autism. True story. They're not looking at sources that are actually credible and are not doing their actual critical thinking, and they're giving a lot of bad advice, which is putting a lot of people in really worse positions. You as a metaphysicians and astrologers, same thing. Do not get into that arena because it's not right. It's not right. And if you ever hope to be taken seriously as something other than a complete wackadoodle someday, right? And some of you just, God, bless your hearts. We have got to start policing ourselves, and holding everybody more accountable to what is considered ethical standards of behavior, and knowing where the line begins and ends with what you're qualified to talk about and what you're not, right? Stay in your lane. I am not a lawyer, so I'm not going to give you legal advice. And if I do, you shouldn't be taking it seriously. And if you take my legal advice seriously, knowing I'm not a lawyer, then who's the bigger idiot here? So it's the same thing with medical and science advice. Understand that it's just know. There are people who dedicate their entire lives to getting educations so that we can make the progress and substantial improvements that we have. Those are the people you should be listening to, not somebody who picked up an astrology book or a bunch of tarot cards, studied ancient religions, and is now telling you that, back in the days of Mesopotamia, this is what they did to fight off the, common cold. Because, yeah, sure, okay. So, yeah, that's it. Rant over. The part 2 of the May horoscope will be a more traditional horoscope. I'm sorry, I'm at my wit's end too, and I enjoy having you guys as viewers. I'd like you guys to stay around as viewers, and that won't happen if you're dead. So do not drink bleach. Do not inject weird stuff in your system. If your medical advice is coming from anyone in the United States administration who's not an actual freaking doctor, and even then, some of them I'm a little concerned about what their actual priorities are. Do not take that advice. If you are taking advice, medical, legal, financial, or scientific advisement from a freaking astrologer, like, consider the source, okay? Especially if they're telling you some kind of mumbo jumbo right now about this virus and how, you can protect yourself if you do this or you don't do that, whatever, and it goes against, or it's not supported by science. We know that social distancing works, and it sucks. I've never missed crowded elevators so much. Crowded elevators and close talkers. But we know that it works, and we also know that masks work, and we also know that masks work better when we're both wearing them, because the mask, more than protecting me from you, the mask protects you from me, because I could be asymptomatic and not even realize that I'm COVID positive. So don't be like the douche that showed up at a job the other day in a store, arguing with the store clerks about, well, if I'm supposed to wear a mask, then you should be providing it for me. Um, and then when they finally gave him a mask, he proceeded to put it on his head like a birthday hat. Yeah, because the millennials are such snowflakes. This is a boomer, right? Big act of defiance. Um, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Listen, if you want to go contaminate people who agree with you. But otherwise, keep your happy behind home. These things exist for a reason. People are making these recommendations for a reason, and this is not a joke. This is not a joke. In the United States, we have hit 1 million deaths, and apparently, we have lost more people because of this virus in 3 months. 3 months than we lost during the entirety of the Vietnam War. And the Vietnam War was a senseless bloodbath that killed a lot of people needlessly. So, this is serious. This is serious. I'm not okay with people being very cavalier about crap advice when they know zero about medicine or science and are not even discussing things that medicine and science is approving. So wear your masks. Don't inject or ingest anything into you that's not recommended by a qualified public health physician. And absolutely don't take anything coming from the United States administration as, good advice right now. Good God, their priorities are their bottom lines, not your life or your family's life, because you're poor. There's plenty more where you came from. They'll just replace you. Um, and as far as astrologers and metaphysicians and stuff like that, listen, if you're listening to somebody who's spending all their time talking about conspiracy theories, or they're giving some kind of wackadoodle advice about the ancient Sumerian Egyptians, with whatever herbs and, oils, and that's prevented the whatever, it didn't work during the Spanish flu, it's not going to work now. And if your conspiracy theory does not now involve having sex with aliens, and that's how we got this virus, because, aliens are known to probe, or so we hear, and this virus is mutating in so many different ways, it's not like anything we've ever seen before. So it's entirely possible this is completely extraterrestrial. So if your conspiracy theory wackadoodles aren't feeding you this nonsense to keep your minds occupied, then they're just, I don't even know what you're doing. They're just alarming you to alarm you and, whip you up. And this month, we're going to have a lot of that. People whipping people up just to get them excited and angry at somebody else. And people literally looking for easy targets and feeling sorry for themselves. It's going to be a tough month. Mental health is a priority. So take care of yours and look for the proper May horoscope in the next video.